My name is Clarissa Hilton, and I was supposed to get married in 3 weeks. 29 years old, project manager by trade, perfectionist by nature, the kind of woman who color codes her calendar and labels her spice jars. For 4 years, I believed I'd found the man who matched my rhythm. Travis Parker. Charming, spontaneous, confident, everything I wasn't. We were opposites, that made sense, or so I thought. The wedding planning had been meticulous. My mother's dress was altered twice because she kept losing weight from excitement. The venue was booked, the deposit paid, the floral arrangements chosen. Even the cake flavors had been debated down to the last crumb. I'd built that day in my head 1,000 times. And then one night everything cracked loud and public. It started innocently enough. Travis suggested we throw a joint bachelor and bachelorette party. "It's modern Clarissa," he said, resting his head on my shoulder, scrolling through Pinterest boards filled with champagne towers and neon lights. "We're a team. Why celebrate separately?" I hesitated. Bachelor parties exist for a reason, I thought. A little space before commitment, a symbolic goodbye to singlehood. But I didn't want to sound insecure. "If that's what you want," I said finally. He smiled. "It'll be fun, all our friends together." I should have trusted my hesitation. That night, it was the first warning bell, and I muted it. The venue was a downtown lounge, the kind of place with dark velvet walls and overpriced cocktails. When I walked in, my chest actually fluttered. Maybe this will be perfect, I thought. Travis had gone all out. Music pulsed through the air. Champagne glittered in flutes, and everyone, my bridesmaids, his groomsmen, our college friends, cheered as we arrived. For the first hour, everything was perfect. Travis wrapped his arm around my waist, whispered jokes in my ear, kissed my cheek. It felt normal. Then he started drinking hard. By 9 p.m., he was 3 cocktails and 2 shots in. His laughter turned louder, his touch lingered longer, but not always on me. I noticed her when she walked in, Nadia, his ex from college, the woman he'd dated for 2 years before me, the one he still followed on social media because they were just friends. I pulled Travis aside near the bar. "Did you know Nadia was coming?" He rolled his eyes, his breath thick with whiskey. "Relax, Clarissa. She's friends with Mark. It's not a big deal. It feels like a big deal." He leaned close, a grin that wasn't kind curving his lips. "Don't be jealous. That's not a good look on you." I swallowed the heat in my chest. "Don't cause a scene," I told myself. "It's our night." An hour later, the music softened, and I lost sight of him in the crowd. I went to refill my drink, and that's when the air left my body. There on the corner couch, beneath the red light glow, was Travis, my fiancé, kissing Nadia. Not a polite peck, not a drunken accident, a deliberate, full, lingering kiss, his hand on her lower back, her fingers tangled in his hair. My first reaction wasn't anger, it was stillness. The kind of stillness that only comes when your brain can't compute what it's seeing. People were watching. My bridesmaid Maya's mouth fell open. His friends froze mid-laughter. Travis didn't even notice the room had gone silent until I stepped forward. I set my untouched glass down on the table next to them. The sound of it clicking against the wood made him pull away. His expression was lazy, amused, like I'd interrupted a joke. "Clarissa," he said, wiping his mouth. "Don't make this a big deal. It was just a kiss." Just a kiss. My stomach turned. "You kissed your ex at our joint party." He laughed. Actually laughed. "You're overreacting. We were celebrating. Stop being dramatic." Something inside me snapped, but not loudly. It broke in silence like thin glass under pressure. "Okay," I said quietly. "Then celebrate without me." He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" I looked around at our friends, pretending not to stare at the DJ, shifting awkwardly at the future I'd built, crumbling quietly under dim lights. "It means we're done." He stood up too fast, nearly spilling his drink. "Clarissa, come on, you're being ridiculous." "No, Travis. I've been ridiculous for 4 years, pretending your flirtations were harmless, your boundaries flexible. Not tonight." He scoffed. "You'll regret this tomorrow." I smiled faintly. "I'll take that chance." And I walked out. I didn't slam the door or cry in the Uber. I just stared out the window, watching the city lights smear across the glass, thinking about the thousands of dollars spent on a wedding that would never happen. When I got home, I poured myself a glass of bourbon, sat at my kitchen table, and let the silence wrap around me like armor. My phone buzzed nonstop. Travis, his friends, even my mother calling in confusion. I didn't answer. At 6 a.m., I opened my laptop and began canceling everything. The venue, the florist, the photographer, the caterer. Each call felt cleaner than the last. "Yes, I understand I'll lose the deposit. No, there's no reschedule. Please remove my name from your list." By 9 a.m., the wedding that had taken months to build was gone. Maya showed up at my apartment door that afternoon, still in last night's outfit, eyes wide. You really did it. I nodded. There's no wedding. She stared, torn between pride and heartbreak. He said it was just a kiss. I met her eyes, and that's exactly the problem. The room went still. Somewhere outside, a car horn blared, then faded into distance. That evening, I sent one group message to all our guests. The wedding scheduled for October 14th is canceled. Thank you for your understanding. No details, no explanations. Just an ending. By sunset, my phone exploded with replies. Confusion, pity, outrage. But as I sat there on the couch, bathed in golden light from the window, I realized something I'd never known before. Peace isn't always gentle. Sometimes it's the quiet that follows destruction. And for the first time in 4 years, I could breathe. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls and 83 unread messages. Travis's name sat at the top of every thread, alternating between apologies and accusations. Clarissa, please answer. I was drunk. It was just a kiss. Don't ruin everything over this. You're being immature. We're supposed to be getting married in 3 weeks. You'll regret this when you calm down. I scrolled through them without reacting. My heartbeat didn't even quicken anymore. It was as if something in me had quietly detached the night before the part that still believed in him. Maya came by again that afternoon, hair tied back, holding 2 cups of coffee and a look of concern. You're trending, she said softly, setting her phone on the table. There it was, posts from our mutual friends, vague captions about 4 years gone overnight, and people debating whether I'd overreacted. Someone even uploaded a clip from the party, a shaky, dimly lit video of Travis and Nadia kissing. It had already reached 5,000 views. I felt strangely calm watching it, detached like I was observing someone else's tragedy. That's the best thing that could have happened to me, I whispered. Maya blinked. What do you mean? If that video exists, I never have to explain myself again. She stared at me for a long time, then nodded slowly. You're stronger than I thought. Not stronger, I said quietly. Just done. That week, I called a locksmith and changed the apartment locks. Then I packed Travis's things, shirts, cufflinks, his collection of whiskey glasses into boxes, and left them by the door. I texted his best man, Mark. Please pick up Travis's belongings. I'll be at work. He replied with a single line. You're making a huge mistake, Clarissa. Maybe I was, but it wasn't the kind he meant. By Tuesday, the story had spread through every corner of our social circle. People took sides like it was a sport. Half of them believed Travis's version that it was just a stupid kiss, and I was being cold and unforgiving. The other half avoided commenting at all, though their silence said plenty. At work, whispers followed me down the hallway. Engagement photos that used to hang on my desk now sat in a box under my chair. My boss called me in to check if I was emotionally fit to continue managing the upcoming project. I smiled politely. I'm fine, thank you. Let's talk budget forecasts. He blinked, caught off guard. That was the day I realized when you refused to perform your pain. People don't know where to put it. By Friday night, Travis showed up outside my apartment. I heard his voice through the door before I saw him through the peephole, disheveled eyes, red swaying slightly. Clarissa opened the door. Please, I made one mistake. Don't throw us away. I didn't move, didn't even breathe. He knocked again, harder this time. Clarissa, I love you. We can fix this. The knocking became pounding, and I imagined the neighbors peering through their peepholes. Clarissa. My phone buzzed with a call from him. Then another. Then silence. I waited. Minutes stretched. Eventually, the footsteps retreated. Maya texted me an hour later. He's been posting drunk stories on Instagram. Something about loyalty, being dead. I sighed. Let him post, I muttered to no one. He's only proving my point. The next few days became a blur of noise I refused to participate in. Gossip threads, pity texts, unsolicited advice. Everyone had an opinion on what I should forgive, how quickly I should move on. But none of them had stood in that lounge. None of them had watched the man they loved look into their eyes and laugh while betraying them. That's the part nobody saw. Sunday morning arrived calm and gray. I brewed coffee, opened the window, and let the city breathe with me. My mother called. Sweetheart, she began softly. Travis's mother called me. She's devastated. She says Travis hasn't eaten, hasn't slept. Mom, I interrupted gently. Please don't. She paused. I know you're hurt, but people make mistakes. I'm not punishing him, I said. I'm protecting myself. She exhaled. I just don't want you to be alone. I'd rather be alone, I said, than with someone who thinks my pain is an overreaction. Silence. Then finally she whispered, You sound sure. I am. That night, Maya and I sat on my balcony with 2 glasses of wine and a bag of takeout. The air smelled like rain and exhaust fumes, oddly comforting. She leaned back, squinting at the city lights. You really deleted all his messages. Every single one. She smiled faintly. So this is what freedom looks like, huh? I looked at the skyline, the thousands of glowing windows, each holding someone else's story, and let the quiet fill the space between us. No, I said after a moment. This is what starting over looks like. And somewhere deep in my chest, beneath the wreckage of the past week, something small and steady began to pulse again. Hope. 2 months passed. Enough time for the gossip to die, for Travis's name to fade from daily conversation, though not from memory. The first few weeks after the breakup felt like standing in a house that had burned down, the structure still there, but everything inside turned to ash. My routines, my weekends, even my silence felt different. But when the smoke cleared, I discovered something unexpected: space. Space to breathe, space to build again. I threw myself into work. I arrived early, stayed late, volunteered for the projects no one else wanted. The office became my therapy spreadsheets instead of tears, deadlines instead of distractions. My boss, impressed, started hinting about a promotion. Maya called it my revenge arc. Let him scroll through Instagram and see you glowing, she'd laugh. But it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming myself. For the first time in years, my days weren't shaped around someone else's moods. I filled my apartment with little pieces of peace. A new couch, fresh flowers, every Sunday books stacked unevenly by the window. I cooked for one and ate slowly, savoring the quiet. It wasn't loneliness. It was solitude, the kind that heals instead of hollows. One night I was working late when a message appeared on my screen. Liam Chen. He'd been one of Travis's groomsmen, quiet, thoughtful, with the kind of eyes that notice details others miss. He'd texted a few times since everything happened, mostly checking in politely, never crossing lines. Hey, Clarissa, just wanted to say the presentation you gave today was amazing. That client's impossible and you made it look easy. I smiled. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before typing back. Thank you. I guess stress is my fuel these days. Then you must be running on premium, he replied, followed by a small, laughing emoji. Something about that made me laugh. A sound that startled me because I hadn't heard it in weeks. Over the next few days, we exchanged casual messages, work stuff, jokes, random thoughts about movies or food. It wasn't flirting. It was light, natural, easy. The kind of conversation that didn't demand anything. Still, every time his name lit up my phone, the world seemed to slow down a little. Therapy helped too. My therapist, a calm woman named Dana, didn't ask me why I left Travis. She asked me why I stayed as long as I did. At first, that question hurt. But the more I unpacked it, the more I saw the patterns, how I'd been trained to call his disregard charm, his teasing love, his distance mystery. Travis didn't suddenly become cruel, Dana said one afternoon. He just finally stopped pretending. That sentence landed like a door clicking shut. One evening, Maya dragged me out for drinks after work. The same bar we used to visit as a group, the same place Travis and I had once shared too many toasts. As we settled into a booth, Maya leaned in. You know Liam's been asking about you, right? I blinked. What do you mean? He texted me last week, said he saw you in the parking lot, and almost said hi, but didn't want to make things weird. I frowned, surprised. That's considerate. Exactly, Maya smirked. And kinda cute. I rolled my eyes, but my heart did a small traitorous flutter. A few days later, Liam asked if I wanted to grab coffee after a meeting. I hesitated for a moment, not because I didn't want to, but because I wasn't sure I should. But then I remembered something Dana had said. Healing doesn't mean you stop trusting. It means you start choosing better. So I said yes. We met at a quiet cafe near the river. No awkward small talk, no forced charm, just conversation that flowed easily between sips of coffee. He told me about his sister's upcoming wedding, how he was dreading the dance floor. I told him about the time I once tried to bake and set off the smoke alarm. At one point he said, "You know I was at that party, the night everything happened." My stomach tensed, but his tone wasn't pitying. "I saw the look on your face when it happened," he continued softly. Everyone else was staring at him. "I couldn't look away from you." Silence. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't. Then he smiled. "You handled it with more grace than anyone I've ever seen." Something in my chest loosened. That night, walking home, I caught my reflection in a shop window. For months, I'd looked like a woman surviving her own story. But now, I looked alive again. I smiled, not the forced kind I used to wear for appearances, but something gentler, real. When I got home, my phone buzzed. A text from Liam. "You smiled tonight. It suits you." For a long moment, I just stared at the screen, feeling warmth spread through me like sunlight. Maybe Maya was right. Maybe this was my revenge arc. But standing there barefoot in my quiet apartment, I realized it didn't feel like revenge at all. It felt like renewal. 3.5 months after that night, Travis's name appeared again, this time not on my phone, but in my inbox. The subject line read, "Please read this." I almost deleted it on instinct. But curiosity won for a moment. My therapist once told me that closure doesn't always come from silence. Sometimes it comes from seeing the proof that you've grown past needing it. So I opened it. Clarissa, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I'm writing because I've been doing the work therapy medication reflecting. I finally understand how much I hurt you. That night meant nothing. It was stupid self-destructive. I had too much to drink and panicked about the wedding, about commitment, about losing myself. You were the best thing in my life, and I threw it away because I was scared. I'm not asking for you back, just a chance to apologize face to face. Please, Clarissa, just one conversation. Travis. His words were neat, carefully structured. The kind of message that had been proofread 10 times. I could almost see him agonizing over every sentence, trying to sound evolved. But all I felt was nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just a quiet recognition that this email wasn't for me, it was for his conscience. I deleted it. No response, no closure ceremony, just delete empty trash and move on. Later that week, I told Liam about it while we were having dinner. We'd been seeing each other more frequently. Coffee turned into dinners, into late-night walks, and soon into something that didn't need labels to feel right. He emailed you, Liam asked, setting his fork down. Yeah, the full redemption arc. Therapy, apologies, trauma, unpacking all of it. What did you say? Nothing. A slow smile tugged at his lips. Good. I laughed softly. You don't think that's cold? He shook his head. No. You already said everything that mattered when you walked away. But not everyone agreed. The next afternoon, I ran into Carla, one of Travis's friends, at a grocery store. She gave me the kind of smile that pretends to be polite but feels like a knife. I heard you're dating someone, she said, her tone syrupy. Already. I froze for a second, then smiled. Yes, already. She tilted her head. Travis has been a mess. He really loves you, you know. People make mistakes. I wanted to tell her that people don't accidentally make out with their exes in front of an audience, but I didn't. Instead, I looked her straight in the eye and said, one mistake didn't end us. His attitude did. Her expression flickered, and I walked away before she could say another word. 2 days later, I was sitting at my desk when the receptionist buzzed my phone. Clarissa, there's a Mrs. Parker here to see you. Says she's your former mother-in-law. I froze. Send her up, I said before I could think. Moments later, Travis's mother stood at my office door holding a trembling purse in her hands. She looked smaller, her once styled hair now a frizz of anxiety. Clarissa, she said softly, please just give me 5 minutes. I nodded, gesturing for her to sit. She didn't. She just stood there, eyes glassy. He's not doing well. He's lost weight. He barely eats. You meant everything to him. I swallowed, forcing my voice to stay steady. I'm sorry he's struggling, but that's not my responsibility anymore. Tears welled in her eyes. You can't throw away 4 years over one mistake. I stood up then, keeping my tone calm but firm. He didn't make one mistake. He made a choice. And when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. She looked at me for a long moment, her expression caught between sadness and disbelief. You've changed, she whispered finally. I've healed, I corrected gently. That night I sat on my couch, replaying the encounter. I didn't feel proud or triumphant, just peaceful. It was strange how peace could feel heavy and light all at once. My phone buzzed. A message from Liam. Still awake. Barely. Long day. I'm outside. I blinked. Outside, I texted back. Yeah, you sounded like you needed air. I opened the door, and there he was standing under the streetlight, holding 2 cups of hot chocolate. You're supposed to be asleep, I said, smiling despite myself. He shrugged. Therapist says sleep is overrated. We sat on the steps, sipping in silence, the air cool and crisp. His mom came to see me today, I said eventually. Liam looked at me sideways, waiting. I told her the truth, I said, that he's not my problem anymore. Good, he murmured. Then, after a pause, you know what I love about you. I turned toward him. You just said love. Dangerous word. He smiled. Then let me risk it. I love that you know when to stop saving people. The words hung between us, soft, real, terrifying, in the best way. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I leaned my head against his shoulder. And for the first time since everything had fallen apart, I realized I wasn't rebuilding my life around the wreckage. I was building something entirely new. 5 months after everything fell apart, I got an invitation that made me hesitate for a moment before accepting Maya's engagement party. She'd found someone kind, patient, and real. The sort of man who didn't need to be the loudest person in the room to make her feel safe. I wanted to be there for her to celebrate her joy, but a part of me couldn't ignore the tiny knot in my stomach that whispered, "What if Travis shows up?" "Don't worry," Maya said when I asked. "He's not invited." Still, fate has a cruel sense of humor. The night of the party, I wore a soft navy dress that hugged me just right. Liam came with me, and the moment he took my hand, I knew I could handle anything. The restaurant was glowing with warm light laughter bouncing off the walls. For the first hour, I let myself enjoy it, the music, the chatter, the easy way Liam's fingers laced through mine. Then I heard Maya's voice behind me, low and uneasy. "Clarissa, don't freak out. But he's here." I turned. Across the room, standing near the bar, was Travis. He looked smaller than I remembered, thinner, paler. The sharp edges of arrogance had worn away, replaced by exhaustion. For a fleeting moment, I felt something close to pity. Then I remembered the woman I'd been that night, the one who'd walked out of a party in humiliation, and the pity dissolved. I nodded at Maya. "It's okay. You sure?" "Completely." Travis noticed me a few minutes later. I saw it happen, the flicker of recognition, the tightening of his jaw, the way his gaze darted to Liam beside me. His eyes widened slightly like he hadn't expected me to move on. Liam leaned close and whispered, "You good?" I smiled faintly. Better than good. For the next hour, I tried to ignore Travis's presence. We mingled, we toasted, we danced. Liam kept me laughing, steady as gravity. But I could feel Travis's eyes on me, watching, waiting, unraveling. Eventually he approached. I knew he would. I was alone at the bar, ordering a drink, when his reflection appeared beside mine in the mirror. "Clarissa," he said quietly. I didn't turn. "Travis, can we talk?" "There's nothing to talk about." "Please," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "Just 5 minutes." I sighed, finally facing him. 5 minutes for what? You already said everything you needed to in that email. He looked at me desperately. "I know, but I need to say it in person. I was drunk stupid. I didn't mean anything by it." "Then why does it still mean something to you?" I asked. He blinked. "What? If it meant nothing, you wouldn't be standing here months later asking for forgiveness." He exhaled shakily. "Because I love you. I never stopped." I looked at him, really looked. He wasn't the same confident man I once knew. There was guilt in his eyes, maybe even genuine remorse. But whatever we'd been had burned away long ago, and all that remained were ashes. "I don't think about you anymore, Travis," I said softly. Not in anger, not in longing, just not at all. He swallowed hard. "So that's it. 4 years gone. You ended those 4 years the moment you laughed in my face while kissing someone else." His expression hardened, pride rearing its head one last time. "You're with him now." He nodded toward Liam across the room. "That's none of your business." "Wow," he said bitterly. "Didn't take you long to replace me." I smiled faintly. "You can't replace what's already been removed." At that moment, Liam returned with 2 drinks. He handed me one, nodding politely at Travis. "Hi," he said calmly. "I don't think we've met." Travis's jaw tightened. "Oh, I know who you are." Liam's tone stayed even. "Then you know she deserves better." I placed a hand on Liam's arm. "It's fine." Then I looked back at Travis. "You shouldn't be here. This isn't your moment to relive. It's Maya's night." Travis's face twisted, a flash of humiliation, anger, and something else, realization. "You'll regret this," he said quietly. "No one will ever love you like I did." I held his gaze. "You're right. No one will ever love me like you did. And thank God for that." He blinked, stung. Before he could respond, Maya appeared, her voice low but firm. "Travis, it's time for you to go." For a second, he looked like he might argue. But then he saw the eyes watching him, the quiet judgment from everyone who'd once believed his charm. He turned and walked out the door, swinging shut behind him with a soft click. When he was gone, the noise of the party slowly returned, laughter and music spilling back into the air. Liam turned to me. "You okay?" I nodded, then smiled, a calm, unshaken smile. "More than okay." He reached for my hand. "You handled that like a queen. I'm done letting broken people drag me back to their level." He chuckled softly. "Remind me never to cross you." I leaned in, teasing. "You won't need reminding." Later that night, as we left the restaurant, Maya hugged me tightly. "You were incredible," she whispered. "The way you stayed composed. I think everyone saw how far you've come." I smiled. That's the thing about growing. Most people don't notice until it's unignorable. Outside, the night was cool, a soft breeze brushing against my skin. Liam opened the car door for me. "Where to now?" he asked. "Home," I said. Then paused, glancing up at the stars. "Our home." He smiled, that quiet, grounding smile that still made my chest feel light. "Sounds perfect." As we drove away, I looked out the window one last time. For a brief second, I thought I saw Travis's silhouette at the edge of the parking lot, half hidden in shadow, watching. But when I blinked, he was gone. Maybe it didn't matter whether he was really there or not. The version of me he once knew, the one who waited for apologies and explanations, wasn't here anymore either. Inside the car, Liam reached for my hand and intertwined our fingers. I turned toward him, smiled softly, and whispered, "Sometimes you have to lose everything fake to make room for something real." He glanced over with a grin. "Then we've got a lot of real ahead of us." And for the first time in a long, long time, I believed it. The date that should have been my wedding day came quietly. No chaos, no tears, no lingering ache. October 14th. Instead of waking up in a hotel suite surrounded by bridesmaids and perfume clouds, I woke up in a cabin tucked in the mountains, sunlight spilling through the curtains, and the smell of coffee drifting through the air. Liam was in the kitchen wearing the sweatshirt I'd claimed as mine weeks ago, humming off key as he poured coffee into 2 mugs. When he noticed me leaning in the doorway, he smiled. "You're up early, Mrs. Not Married." I laughed, padding across the wooden floor barefoot. I slept better than I ever did when I was supposed to be someone's wife. He handed me a mug, his eyes searching mine. "You thinking about today?" I took a sip, then looked out the window. Morning mist rolled over the pine trees, soft and endless. A little, but not in the way you'd think. We went for a hike later, the air crisp with the scent of wet leaves. The trail wound upward until the forest opened into a clearing overlooking the valley. I stood there quietly, letting the wind comb through my hair. "This view," I murmured, "is better than any wedding venue I could have paid for." Liam came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my shoulders. "You didn't lose a wedding, Clarissa. You dodged a cage." I smiled faintly. "It doesn't even feel like a dodge anymore, more like a detour that led somewhere better." He rested his chin on my head. "Then let's keep walking." That evening after dinner, and too much laughter over burnt marshmallows, we sat by the fire. The crackle filled the silence between us, easy and warm. I found myself tracing the rim of my mug and whispering almost to myself, "You know, I used to think love had to be dramatic to be real, that if it didn't hurt, it wasn't deep." Liam tilted his head. "And now I know the quiet kind lasts longer." He smiled. "Good. I'm not great with drama." I laughed softly. "Lucky for you, neither am I anymore." My phone buzzed, then one short vibration that broke the calm. An unknown number. "You'll regret this. No one will ever love you like I did. Travis." I stared at the words for a moment, then set the phone down on the armrest beside me. Liam noticed. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said simply. "Just deleting a ghost." I pressed delete and watched the message vanish. It felt like closing the final door on a room I'd already emptied. Later that night, after Liam had fallen asleep beside me, I stepped outside onto the porch. The forest was quiet except for the steady hum of crickets and the whisper of wind through the trees. The moon hung low, silvering everything it touched. I thought about the woman I'd been half a year ago, anxious, accommodating small inside someone else's life. And then I thought about the woman standing here now, unshaken, certain whole. Travis had once said, "You'll never find someone who loves you like I do." He was right. I'd found someone who loved me better. Someone who listened, who didn't confuse chaos with passion, who never made me beg for respect. I had found myself again. As dawn crept over the mountains, I wrapped my blanket tighter and whispered into the soft air, "Thank you, Travis. Not for the memories, but for the lesson, for showing me exactly what love should not feel like, for pushing me unwillingly toward the peace that came after you." The fire from the night before had gone out completely, but its warmth still lingered in the ashes. That was me, I realized, burned, yes, but still warm, still capable of light. Inside, Liam stirred, calling my name sleepily. I smiled, turned back toward the cabin, and walked inside into a life I had chosen freely without fear. The sound of coffee brewing filled the silence, steady and comforting. It was the quiet sound of freedom.